Alright, now we're going to set up an area spawn so that every time the player enters an area or exits an area or stays in an area, an enemy will spawn and chase the player around. So I'll start by creating an empty. We'll call this the enemy spawner. Gonna give it a circle collider. And I'm going to increase the radius to be larger so that it's a more interesting, if it's too small, you can't, it won't mean anything. If it's too large, it's, well, too big. Too many enemies will spawn. So I'm going to make it decent size. Then I'm going to add a condition from playground, condition area. We want the event type to be on enter. Click the plus for an action, and we want to create an object. So to start with, I will just choose my small bomb, just to test this and see that it's working. From assets, small bomb. Kind of working, but I'm kept out of this. Right, I can't go into the circle. The reason for that is because it's not a trigger. Check that little box, circle collider 2D. Now it's a trigger, not a collider. Okay, it's making bombs, but they're appearing right here. It says new position, prefab to create small bomb, new position, the position it's creating it at, 0, 0, 0. I want to check relative to object. And now it's creating the bombs in the center. Alright, since I did that during play, it didn't take, so I'm going to go ahead and check relative to object again. Now when I hit play, I'm getting a bomb in the center every time I go through it. So you can set that up to basically put a bomb somewhere out in space a little bit. So like this new position, we'll if I move it up in Y a little bit, every time I fly in, okay. While it's playing, I'm going to just tune it a little bit. So you could set it up so that every time you entered, it spawned as a static object somewhere else. But I'm going to set this up to spawn an enemy that will chase the player when I go in. So let's start with making... Oh, what's this slimy Wes? That works. We'll have slimy Wes spawn. Let's lower his scale down by quite a bit though. And you could grab anything from the sprites folder in images, creatures, got ghosts. Could do a space ghost. Actually, that's a better idea. Let's do a space ghost. Or I think the assignment is actually do something you make. You draw a sprite. Alright. So we got that ghost. We're going to add a polygon to him, a polygon collider. We're going to add a, oops, not a new script. We're going to add a playground movement component to him to follow target. And we're going to drag the player, which is the ship, click and drag to the target. Now when I hit play, yep, I got a space ghost following. That's great. I'm going to set it to look at target. Let's see, is the up vector correct? Yeah, that's fine. So I could set the up vector to be left, I think we'll... Nope. Right. It was backwards. Maybe I should just leave it up. Alright. So, Space Ghost. And let's add a playground attribute for health system. So that will give him health. Playground attributes, modify health. And on impact, he will do, let's say 3 damage. He's got 3 health. So we can run him into bombs. Oh, he just healed himself, you see that? I don't know how I feel about that. Huh. There's no option to filter by a tag. So the ghost can heal himself. Well, we'll just have to deal with that. Maybe we'll look at editing that script as a little in-class exercise to filter it so that only the player can heal. Alright, where are you, Space Ghost? Okay, so the Space Ghost now, we want a Space Ghost to spawn every time from the enemy spawner. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the prefab to create from the small bomb to the Space Ghost just by clicking and dragging the Space Ghost in. Oh, and now I'm not getting him. So with that enemy spawner selected, you can see that prefab to create has gone missing because the Space Ghost, he blew up. He hit a bomb, or he hit the space fish here. I'll run him into the space fish. Or try. Oops. It's not going very well for me. Oh. Alright. So what we need is we need to protect the Space Ghost so that he doesn't disappear. So if he disappears, this spawner will no longer work because it will have nothing to create. So we're going to create the cat box for the Space Ghost. And so to do that, I'm just going to grab a couple of asteroids. Come on. Control D to duplicate them. I'm going to put them way off somewhere. Actually, let's just build it around Space Ghost to start. We're going to build a pin for Space Ghost out of asteroids. I'm going to take this auto rotate script off as well. Just Control D to duplicate these. And you'll see that as I had all of them selected, that their auto rotate is gone as well. Control D, duplicate one, Control D, duplicate another. Alright, and so I'm going to turn these gizmos off. Just turn them all off, please. Just make them small, okay. So now when I play, the ghost can't come and get me. He's stuck. Which is great, because that now means that the spawner, oh, he got loose. Tighten up that prison. can't find the spawner now. Alright, where'd it go? Alright, there's the enemy spawner. I'm gonna move it a lot closer. I'm gonna move it just below the potion, or just to the left of me, so we can see this in action. Wow, it's chugging when that happens. When I spawn one. Oh, is it probably spawning too many? So he's got a rigid body. I think I need the rigid body in order for him to move. If I remove that, yeah, the follow target script depends on the rigid body. So, yeah, look at that there. It's spawning a ton of space ghosts, it looks like. No, just 2. Make him fast. Whoa. Making him too fast and he shoots out of the prison. Yeah. So that's him moving too fast for the physics to update. That's what that was. He shot out of there like it was nothing. All right, time to look at the profilers. So since I'm having performance issues, I'm going to open the profiler. This is under Window. Oh, I just saw it. Profiler, right there. All right. When I hit play, this will give me a real-time data stream of what's going on. You can see my physics are spiking up really high. And I just figured out what the problem was. So our enemy spawner sits right here, and there's too many things happening. So I'm going to filter by tag player, because when the performance hit was happening is this is my theory. Let's watch what happens when the spacefish enters the trigger volume. Tons and tons of these, right? And so you see the performance is getting a little bit worse. So what's happening is the spacefish enters the trigger area. That causes a space ghost to spawn. That new space ghost that spawns causes another space ghost to spawn. So since I'm not filtering by tag, anything that enters this, including a space ghost, causes a space ghost to spawn. And that's why we were getting performance issues. So now when the whale enters, there's no real performance loss here. We're still at 1,000 FPS. There we go. So this profiler can be a little difficult to read at first. So I'll just kind of break that down real fast. So right here, you've got all these little boxes you can tick, and this will tell you what is contributing to your performance. I went ahead and I just highlighted just the physics, because I had a suspicion that it was going to be a physics issue, since we're using colliders and rigid bodies and all that. And basically, the higher this little orange graph gets, that's how much CPU is being taken up by physics. And Unity does kind of have a reputation for not being a very performant game engine. And the reason for that reputation is because before Unity's current business model, when Unity they had a free version and a pro version, the pro version was the only one that had a profiler. So you had a free game engine, but no way to identify what your performance bottlenecks were, that led to a lot of unoptimized games because they couldn't possibly optimize, and that's how Unity got kind of a reputation for being a bad game engine, was because the people using it for free had no profiler. They couldn't find out what was causing their games to slow down. And then to top it all off, when you use the Unity free, you have to display the Unity splash screen. So it was a really odd business decision where Unity was deciding that, okay, if you're not going to pay for the engine, you have to display our splash screen, advertise for our company, and you can't optimize your game. So you have to advertise your unoptimized game with our engine. It's a very, very strange series of decisions there. But now this works just fine. The ghosts can die. They can hit the space whale. You know what? Let's give the space whale. He's got health. I think it would be cool if the space whale had a lot more health. Right now he's got 3. I mean, he's big. Let's give him 30 health. So if you wanted to kill him, you would have to run a lot of ghosts into him, or he'd have to eat a lot of bombs. But that's a much more appropriate amount of health, I think. We'd have to play with it and decide on a goal to really figure that out, but just playing that, I didn't think it was right that the space whale dies so easily. Space ghosts, I'm fine with that. They're kind of expendable. They spawn in swarms. They hit each other and die. Yeah, geez, I wish we had a little more tag control. Yeah, I think we might make that a little scripting assignment to control those tags a little bit better, because that ghost is like, I like that they could damage the whale, and I like they can damage the player, but making it so they can damage each other it's too much. We'll have to think about a way to fix that, because as fun as Playground is it doesn't cover everything, and this is one of those cases that it just doesn't cover. Alright, so anyway, that's how you make some enemies. Please make some of your own enemies, make some of your own sprites, like at least, come on, like, this should be like a space whale. Like, if you were to make something like that that should take you, like, what, 2-3 minutes in Illustrator? Like seriously, guys, make a couple enemies, use your own graphics. Alright, it won't be hard. Alright, we'll see you on Tuesday.